Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My mom has always been overly judgmental of the partners that I dated. It all started from the first time I ever introduced her to my first boyfriend in high school, till I introduced her to my current boyfriend, Raven. She was heavily bitter towards them all equally. It never made sense to me why she was so overly judgmental of them all, but I would always chalk it up to what my siblings and dad would say. Being the youngest and the only daughter in the house, everyone claimed that her possessive behavior just stemmed from my mom's maternal instincts because she always wanted what was the best for me. I understood that because that was the only explanation that ever made sense. I mean, what else would be the reason behind her harshness and judgments towards my partners? As far as I understood, they all were pretty normal. So, with no other alternatives, I just started accepting things as they were and tried to go on with my life by labeling my mom's toxicity towards my partners wrapped underneath the covers of her so called tough love. If I think about it now, I wouldn't be surprised if I lost a few of my good relationships because of my mom's attitude towards my partners. So, when I met Raven and he loved me enough to stick around, even with my mom's horrible attitude, I guess my mom couldn't digest it. She would go above and beyond to make his and my relationship miserable. I still remember when the first time I introduced him to my family, my mom remarked about everything he ever spoke about. Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have left me that day itself. But he stood still, ahead of it all. That too, with calmness and a smile on his face while I sat there like the scaredy cat that I was, letting my mom berate him, the same man who I knew was the love of my life, and that too over things that I admired about him the most. Now that the realization hits me, I genuinely think that I am as much of a problem as my mom was because of my defensive nature towards her. Things did not come to a halt until now. My mom depicted her terrible behavior towards Raven all throughout our 6 year relationship. And now it is only because of her that I am facing a situation where I have to practically choose between the love of my life and the family who I respect dearly. Everything started falling apart for my mom when Raven and I began talking about our future marriage, children, etc. I knew us talking about this meant that Raven was definitely planning to propose to me. Now, it might sound a bit odd to some of you guys, but Raven and I are a bit old school. We always knew that if we were ever to get married, we would want both our parents to know beforehand. And so I guess that is when my mom found out that Raven was going to propose to me, when he visited my dad to ask him for my hand. My dad, who really likes Raven, immediately said yes, while my mom, in the words of Raven, was flaky about it all but said yes hesitantly. Well, regardless of the fact that he had gotten the acceptance of both my parents, meant enough for him, and he went ring shopping and got me my engagement ring and hid it somewhere in our house so that he could propose to me in February. And I guess, even without us letting her know, my mom took full advantage of this situation. We have a small tradition that my entire family comes over to our place for New Year's, while Raven's family comes over to our place for Christmas. This year was no different. My family was over. We had fun as usual, and eventually they left. There was nothing suspicious about it all, especially when it came to my mom. She was as normal as she could possibly be. Not too sweet, not too bitter, just her usual self. So you guys can only imagine my utter shock when it was none other than my own mom who began calling me nonstop out of nowhere, uncontrollably just a few weeks after they returned home. At the beginning, by the tone of her voice, I was very nervous, thinking that something really bad had happened to her or my dad. But as I continued to hear her explain herself, talking about how she was being sued and dragged into court for doing nothing, I was floored. Unfortunately, though, that was just the mere beginning because after probing for more, she finally confessed to me that it was none other than Raven who had sued her. I was dumbfounded, to say the least. Nothing made sense, as she said nothing ahead of it. She kept begging me to promise her that I would lie in court to save her. I said nothing in response because alarm bells had started ringing in my head at that point. So I did what I thought would be the next best move. I went over to Raven, who was gaming in the very next room, to speak to him. He immediately figured out what I was going to talk to him about as soon as I entered the room in my state of panic. Unlike my mom, he did not twist and turn things. He simply just pulled out his phone and showed me the security footage of our bedroom that we turned on when we went to work, clearly showing evidence of my mom stealing the engagement ring he had gotten me. I was astounded. It was like my world came crashing down, and I didn't even realize. And the bitter reality of my mom began hitting me. Raven was calm throughout it all. He informed me that he had also visited the lawyers who told him that he would be able to win the case with ease and even get all of his money back for the ring. Upon hearing all of this, I had sort of become numb. I was unsure of what to make of this situation, but one thing that I was sure of was that I needed to side with Raven this time. And that is exactly what I did when I stopped receiving all and every attempts of contact from my mom. Sadly, though, ever since then, my dad and brother haven't stopped sending me texts, giving me grief for siding with a boyfriend than with family. Now, because of all this, I can't help but question if I made the right decision after all. So, AITA? I sat Raven down today and showed him this post. Upon reading one comment after the other, I guess he too came to the realization of his setbacks, and we both apologized to each other. I know how many apologies I owe this man and how much healing we have to do. I let him know of everything, how I realized that it was me all along with my family that enabled my mom into being the way that she is. Not just that, though. In our conversation, Raven also confessed to me how the only reason he didn't take me into confidence about the lawsuit was due to the fact that he knew that I would have held him back and convinced him to not report her. Honestly, now that I think about it, he's not wrong at all. I was so blinded by the manipulation my mom put me through. I might have just done that, but this time, I know I'm not going to let that happen. I know what I have to do now, and it's because of all you guys' comments. As for now, I'm unsure of what is about to come. I know for a fact that this is just the beginning of it all, and I know I will be taking you guys on this long journey along with me. It's been a couple of weeks since I hadn't talked to my family, and the legal battle has already begun. I expected my family to get even angrier at me, but to my utter surprise, after the first hearing itself, my dad reached out to me, telling me that he really needed to talk to me. Initially, I made it clear to him that I wasn't going to hear anything about Raven and his decision. To my utter surprise, though, right after he convinced me that he wasn't after arguing about Raven, I found out that things were way worse than I thought. From what my dad said, apparently, my mom led him and my brothers to believe that Raven was dragging her to court for absolutely no reason. She managed to poison them so much that they completely believed her words over ours and even went as far as to pay for her lawyer. Only then find out the truth once they attended the court hearings. Currently, My house is in shambles because my dad is considering divorce, while my brothers have reached out to me to apologize. Unfortunately, as for my mom, she hasn't stopped blaming me for everything. It's truly a saddening situation, as I know for a fact that she isn't going to change. And although it is hard to accept, at least it is something that I will be having to accept by myself, making it an easier route. I last posted on this subreddit about a year ago. The only reason I stopped updating was due to the fact that things slowed down a bit after my last update onwards. So I just decided that I wanted to post a final update that would cover everything that had happened ever since. Well, thankfully, I'm very glad to say that it's mostly all positive things. For starters, after a long legal battle, my mom was made to pay off the money she owed Raven. She couldn't return the ring because apparently she had sold it to pay for one of her girls' trips. Truly disgusting, I know. Well, along with returning the money, she was also given jail time. Not only that, though, my dad has also decided to file for divorce. She's truly in a terrible situation currently, and I don't feel an inch of empathy for her because she has brought it all upon herself with her greed and her inability to love and accept everyone around her. Thankfully, for me though, this situation has been an eye opener not only to my mistakes, but also to the fact that Raven and I can go through a lot more as a couple than I thought. So much so that we officially got engaged last week and have already started planning for our wedding. This all wouldn't have been possible with the support that you guys provide. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. NTA, your mom is a narcissistic a hole, and unknowingly, you are enabling her horrible, self sabotaging behavior. If you don't take a step now, you most likely lose your relationship, so please think twice before taking your next step. You're NTA, but you would have been if you didn't open your eyes and keep enabling your mom. So good on you for that. This whole story might be a little confusing, but bear with me. I dated my ex for 2 years during college, and it was the most toxic relationship I had ever been in. I was 18 and naive, so I stayed for way longer than I should have. But he was incredibly emotionally abusive towards me and treated me like shit. When I finally left him, he begged for me back continuously until I blocked him. The damage he did to me took me years of therapy to undo. Fast forward a couple of years. I am 23, female, in a new relationship, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. My ex also has a new girlfriend, one of his old friends from college, and I only know this because me and her have a mutual friend. 2 weeks ago, out of the blue, my mutual friend sends me two TikToks that my ex's girlfriend made about me. When I watched them, I was incredibly put off. The first one she made over 3 months ago and was a cringy video where she compared pictures of me that she screenshotted off my Instagram to her pictures saying how much of an upgrade she was from me. This was a nasty trend on TikTok for a bit. The second one is the one that I really was pissed off at. It was a video of her laughing to a stereotypical Chinese song with the caption, "When your man's ex girlfriend is one of those fresh off the boat, gold digger Chinese girls that are obsessed with white guys." I was appalled when I read that. Not only is it extremely racist and sexist, it is also a total lie. I was born in the US and have a highly successful career. She completely stereotyped me. She showed my boyfriend, and he was equally pissed off and even said I should post a TikTok about her and expose her for being a racist. Now, here's where I might have gone too far. I left a comment on her TikTok and said, Interesting how racists love other racists. I wasn't expecting her to respond, only maybe to delete my comment. But she actually DM'd me on my Instagram and said something along the lines of how I'm crazy for being so obsessed with her to comment lies on her TikToks and that I'm blocked. In response, I said, maybe you should spend less time making TikToks about me and ask ex boyfriend about his opinions on her race. The truth is that he said some absolutely deplorable things about her race that I won't share. It sickened me completely when he shared those thoughts and was one of the major reasons I left him. He's actually made racist comments directly about her when we were together. She then made fun of me more and refused to believe me. So I sent her one screenshot of something horrible he'd said about her race. She left me on read and I never heard from her again. Apparently, she told our mutual friend about this, who then reached out to me a few days ago, basically telling me off and saying I overstepped and that I should have just kept things to myself. She also felt betrayed that I revealed to her that she had been sending me my ex girlfriend's TikToks. It's been a few weeks, and now that I've had time to calm down, I feel like I may have acted too harshly. My boyfriend still supports me and thinks I did good for exposing him to her, but I'm kind of regretting my actions. AITA? Your NTA. She sounds awful, as does your ex. But may I offer a suggestion? Just let it go. Them both go. Don't entertain them. They probably live for this shit. Going back and forth with you. Block their accounts. Other member of society will call them out of their bullshit. I think it's better if you block their shit and focus on your great happy life. NTA, but I have to say, they're nothing but trashy drama. This chick is so incredibly insecure, and your ex is so toxic that the entire foundation of their relationship is hating you. If you were to just sever all contacts between you, her, and your ex, I can tell you exactly what will happen because I lived your dynamic. They'll turn on each other like rabid animals. They scapegoat you because you left. You don't engage the drama like they do, and it makes them insecure. To them, drama is a form of control over you. You're happy and normal. They hate that because they know they aren't. Sever any friends you share. Set all social media to private. Block them and change your phone number. Wait 3 months, then take a quiet social media scroll. I'd bet actual money someone will have either cheated, been arrested, or dumped. I, 38 female, recently quit my job at a big tech company making plus $200,000, and my husband also makes similar working in tech. I live very frugally and saved 70 to 75% of my income with my husband. We now have a nest egg big enough to retire and enjoy our passions. He loves carpentry and is making custom furniture, and I'm dog walking and making custom cakes. Now we make enough to support ourselves since our house is paid off. With our nest egg, I think even with inflation, we should make it for the rest of our lives. So we decided to work for ourselves, but of course it means we don't make as much. My husband still works as a contractor, but the contract expires in 6 months and I've already retired. I was burnt out already for years, but forced myself through it because I was afraid of retiring during the pandemic uncertainty. But it looks like it's a crapshoot no matter what, so I just retired to enjoy my life. The problem is, I paid for my parents' housing for nearly a decade. My brother has ADHD and lives with them and has been fired from pretty much every job he's had. I believe it's because my parents coddle him and not due to his ADHD. He got meningitis as a baby, and while he doesn't have any last issues from that, my parents were always really soft on him because of it and let him get away with everything. Now he's in his 30s and can't hold down a job. So my parents are still raising him, and my mom never worked because my dad was always the breadwinner. But my dad was laid off a decade ago and couldn't find other work in his field. So he's been doing odd jobs and part time work. When they couldn't make rent, they asked me for help and guilted me into it because I made more. So I pay roughly $700 a month for them to stay in their place and have done for the last decade. In the beginning, I tried to get my mom and brother to work, but they kept saying how tired they were and kept putting off sending out resumes to a point where I gave up. About 4 months ago, I told them of my plan to retire early and start my own business. And of course, I was called selfish and ungrateful for cutting them off because I make more and am choosing to quit. This month, the landlord came to ask for money and they ran to me for money again, even though I gave them 4 months' notice and made it clear that September's rent was the last month I'm paying and demanding I pay another month because they weren't ready. I told them they had 4 months to figure things out, but I was sick of paying for their rent when my parents are still in their early 60s and can work. Now, I'm getting repeated calls, texts, emails, calling me cruel and greedy for cutting them off. NTA, I have ADHD and have a career in engineering. Your parents just raised an a-hole. If they keep asking you for money, go LC with them. Not your pig, not your farm. Good luck in your retirement. I'm very freaking jealous. NTA, 4 months is more than most would get. You complain about your parents enabling your brother, but that $700 enables all of them. ADHD is tough, but millions manage to work with it. It's time for brother to figure it out. Even a part time job would make up that $700 in a few weeks.